deployment process which we need to follow in our all the this thing projects what which we work on. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, so I have not created a big this thing presentation. So what I'll do is I have just took these three topics. One is regarding creating repos. Second one is deployment of WordPress, Drupal, Cake, PHP, and Laravel. What we need to consider while deploying this tech stack. Okay, and the third one is regarding React, Node Express, React Native. Okay, so in this we have manual process as well as automated process. Okay, what I've done is I've just mentioned those points what we need to create over here. Okay, for WordPress, React, manual process and automated process. So what I'll do is I will not go through this thing slides. So I will refer the doc which we have created. Okay, as a deployment process. Okay, so this is the doc which we have created, and we have mentioned all the steps which we need to follow while deploying a code. And this doc we have already bookmarked in SJ Developers channel. Okay, so if anyone wants to review it after this session or anytime, they can just go through this doc in SJ Developers channel. Okay, so I'll just show you where it is. So this is SJ Developers channel. Okay, if you go here, so in Dev Essentials, there are these other this thing processes which we have bookmarked here. Okay, so this is the one deployment steps. Okay, so let's begin with the first one. So this thing steps which we need to follow while deploying WordPress, Drupal, Cake, PHP, and Laravel. Okay, so the first step here will be to request a new Beanstalk repo. So if repo is not present, then you will have to request it to PM, TL, or the senior developers to create that repo. Okay, so while creating a repo, we need to follow some guidelines. So here, those are so whenever you are requesting any this thing repos to project lead, module lead, PM or tech lead, okay, they need to follow this format. So in repo name or title format, okay, the first thing which should come is a project name, okay, followed by client name, whether it is front end or back end, and tech stack. Tech stack is optional, but it will be better if you mention it. Okay, in repo path, what you can mention is so this will be the default one till the beanstalk.com, and after that it project name will come backend and front end. Okay, whether it is front end or whether it is backend, and then tech stack. So that it will be easier for us to identify whenever we need to search that repo or whenever we need to work on those repos. Okay, so these things we need to follow while creating a repos. Okay, the second part is after creating a repos. Okay, so second is repo creation and information sharing. The server team will create the repos, or the PM or TLs will create that repo and share the details via OS ticket. Okay, so after sharing those repo details with the developers, they will have to push their code from the local system to Beanstalk repositories. Okay, so so here one point we need to consider is like so when new repos are created, first developers will have to push the repos. Without that, the server team won't be able to configure the server settings, okay, to deploy it on the servers. So this is the main thing which we need to consider. Okay, so after pushing code on the beanstalk, the next step will be repo server setting adjustment. Okay, so after code is pushed, the server team will make necessary adjustment to the repos server setting, including server IPs, path, username, and SSH keys. So suppose it is a cPanel hosting, then we will have to enter the cPanel credentials, okay, to make connectivity between repos as well as the hosting, the cPanel account. Similar way, if it is a terminal based, then we need to add IP address, and we need to create one SSH key under the repos, which we need to copy into the server to make this connection. Okay, So if after this step, the next one is development notification. Okay, if the server settings are correct, the server team will inform the developers to deploy the code to the server. Okay, so this will be notified through either ticket or OS ticket. Either this thing OS ticket or task. Once the code is deployed to the server, the next thing will be testing and bug fixing. Okay, so next step will be developer will test the app on the live server and raise a OS ticket to the server team in case of any issues. So sometime what happens after deploying the codes, there can be a permission issues or file issues, or there can be issues in the env files. All those things can be there. Okay, so once the code is deployed, then developers will have to review the site or whether it is working or not. Okay, and if there are any issues, then they have to inform the server team. Okay, and they will work on it to fix the issue. Okay, so after that, once the issue is fixed from the server side, or if there is need to work from the developers, and then server team will inform the developer accordingly. After these things is continual improvement. Okay, this process will continue until the app is functioning as expected and all issues are resolved. Okay, the server team will inform the developers to retest the app on the live server after issues are resolved. So here both needs to get involved. Okay, so if there is an issue after the deployment, server team as well as developers. Okay, so there can be a server side issue as well as code side issue. Okay, so in these steps, anyone has any questions or doubts?
No doubt. All good.
So it is clear, right, to everyone?
Yep.
Okay. So what I'll do is I will proceed with React Node Express. Okay. So most of the steps will be common, but only few steps we need to. There will be a changes in those steps. Okay. So in React, for React Node Express and React Native, there are two this thing processes. One is manual process and one is automated process. Okay. So in manual process, again the same steps will come. We need to create a new request a new Beanstalk repos. Okay, to PM, TL, senior devs, or okay. Next is repository creation and information sharing. The same steps. The server team will create a repos and share the details via OS ticket. Okay. Next is code pushing. So developer will push the code to the Beanstalk repos. Next thing will be repo server setting adjustment. Okay. So here also the same thing will happen, but only thing here is here we are not using any cPanel setup. Okay, for React and Node. So here it will be totally terminal based. Okay. So here only we will use server IPs and the connection will happen through SSH keys. No username and password will be used for this React. Okay, when we are using terminal based. Okay. So after these settings are done, the next step will be deployment notification. If the server settings are correct, the server team will inform the developers to deploy it. Okay. The next one is code deployment and app activation. Okay. Here the server team will run the necessary commands on the server, which the developer will have to mention in the configuration file. Okay, to make the application live after successful deployment. Okay, so in the repo there will be one config file. In that developers will have to mention a code, this thing, a command, okay, to run the application. Okay, so it will be based on how the developer will mention it in the in packet.json file. Okay. So based on that, the server team will run the application manually, okay, and they will make that application live after making changes in virtual host and all. Okay, so one thing I have missed out over here, okay, in this second point, okay, so repo creation and information sharing. So in this point, the server team will create a repo and share the details via OS ticket, including the port number. Okay, so here the backends will work on port number. Okay, so that port number every time server team will share with the developers, which they need to mention in their code. Okay, for React and this thing. Okay. So the next one is yeah. So after running those commands, the app will be live. And next thing is the same, the testing and bug fixing and continual improvement. So here, the most of the time, the issues what we face is like developers push the code without updating an env files. Okay, so this should not happen. So if you are going to redeploy a code or after making the changes, then first you people have to inform the server team to update the env file, because we can't include env file in the repo. Okay, so this point we need to consider, okay, before redeploying the application. Otherwise, the application will go down. Okay, so in continual improvement, it is the same thing. The developers and server team will have to work together to resolve those issues if there are any. Okay, so this is the manual process. We have mentioned it manual process because your server team will run those commands manually. Okay, so the next process is automation process. Okay, so here again the same steps will come, only the changes will happen here. Okay, the code deployment and app activation. Okay, so here what we need to consider is before pushing the code, developers will have to make some changes in packet.json file. And for the first deployment, the senior developer will check the code and repo for any error. Okay, in the code. Then the server team will deploy the code first time and manually will start the application using the command mentioned in the process term. Okay, so here there is one this thing change which they need to make is they need to add a packet.json file, and they will have to mention all the this thing command to start, restart, and all those things. Okay, so accordingly, the server team will run it first for the first time, whether to identify if there are any issues. If there are any issues, okay, if the issues are identified, then they will inform the developers to make those changes accordingly, and they will make it live. Okay. For the redeployment, developer will have to add a comment in the repo, okay, in the repo, and also they have to mention if there are any changes in the env file. So same point I have mentioned, okay. So before redeploying, it is mandatory to inform the server team, okay, because we are not giving access to the developers, the terminal access or the server access to the developers, okay. So just inform server team in advance before deploying the code, okay, to if there are any changes in the env file, otherwise the app will go down, okay. And they have to provide the env file personally to the server team so that they can update it before redeploying the code, okay. The server team will add the restart command in the post deployment command section. Okay, so if there is no this thing issues in the app after manually running the application, okay, then the server team will add the restart commands in the post deployment command section. So in Beanstalk there is one section to add a post deployment commands, okay. So the commands which you will mention in the packet.json file, those commands will be added to the Beanstalk repo in post deployment section. Okay, so whenever you people will redeploy the code, then no need to manually start the application. It will automatically start the application after the deployment is finished. Okay, so here the server team will add the restart command. Okay, in the post deployment command section, example, the enp or dev live run. So whatever command is mentioned in that file. Okay. and of the server setting which will make the application live. Okay, it is the same thing. The next thing is like the testing and bug fixing. So here I have mentioned this point because of that ENV issues. Okay, so if the ENV details are not updated to the server team, then the app will go down, and then again the server team and developers will have to coordinate to make it live again. Okay. The next thing is like continual improvement process. Okay, so it is the same thing. So we need to work together till everything is fixed and the app is live. Okay, so here we have a few one example of package.json file. What you people need to mention in this file. Okay, so here there are a few things. Okay, so the command to start the application, to install the npm packages, all those things. Okay, to restart this app and all those things. So you people can go through this file. Okay, and just review it. Okay, so same thing, we have also mentioned over here the env file, which needs to be included in your code. Okay, so you all can go through this doc. Okay, which has package.json file, env file example, as well as all the this thing steps which we need to follow while deploying all the tech stacks. Okay, yeah, so I think this is pretty clear and straightforward, this thing, deployment process which we have created, and it is also easy to understand. Okay, so it is not, we have not used any high level language to create it. Okay, so it is just simple as that. Okay, yeah, so this is what uh, we have in this process.